So I've pretty much been telling you regularly, regularly that one of the big problems in trying to solve the issue in Northern Ireland caused by Brexit is in itself lies almost at the feet of the DUP. The problem is that, well, first of all, the DUP love what's going on. They love this chaos. They really don't like power sharing, but they also really do not like the Belfast slash Northern not flash well slash Good Friday Agreement. They really, really do not like it and would really, to be honest, like it to, well, go away. They are not fans. And to be honest, them losing the election, even though they might not be first in the electorate, is the best thing that could ever happen to them because now they get to cause crisis after crisis after crisis after crisis, and they do not care. And I have said multiple times, listen to what the DUP are saying. They have explicitly said, we do not want a border in the Irish Sea. So it does not matter that you come up with this two-lane system, because as far as they're concerned, not only is Northern Ireland in a different regulatory system, but there is still a border in the Irish Sea which they will not countenance. They are dead set against this. And at the moment, we have been seeing a softening against the EU, a change in the complete rhetoric that has been put out by sort of even hardcore Brexiteers. And as we've said before, almost this realization that the steam has gone out of the Brexit balloon. And there is at least a bit of hope that the UK and the EU can actually sit down and actually start negotiating and really get together and solve these problems that are there on the Northern Ireland Protocol, because they aren't insurmountable. They just need to sit down and actually talk about them. But of course, even the DUP doesn't want that themselves. So as far as they're concerned, them causing just a continuing crisis, them just stopping power sharing completely and altogether in Northern Ireland, they don't care. As far as they're concerned, it pursues their political goals. And they had a conference just this weekend gone, which didn't get a lot of reporting, but I think it should have done, given the fact that they now have their own 7 tests for a new deal. And essentially, some of these points just kill any potential deal whatsoever. So before we go over to this today, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a motivation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel that way. And over we go to today, to the Yorkshire bylines, because we've talked about this before. They talk about how there's the potentiality of restoring the executive potentially over there, and talks are sort of being more softened and the changing of language. But we've talked about that. The one I wanted to go over was this piece here, because this hasn't been sort of very widely reported, that the DUP has these 7 tests, and that these are essentially pretty much going to mean whatever gets agreed, even though there is a softening of this language, as we've said multiple times, the DUP is just ready to start crisis after crisis after crisis until it gets what it wants. And even then, it will just mean new crises that the UK has to handle as a whole. And we are essentially giving in to essentially a very tiny party. But the DUP are using the exact same tactics that the Eurosceptics and the ERG have used very successfully in the Conservative Party. So yeah, we're in a bit of a bind. So the DUP's 7 tests for any new agreement. But in an indication of just how difficult it will be to unravel the Gordian knot that has been created by Brexit, the DUP leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, in a speech to delegates at his party conference last Saturday, said that the protocol issue could not be addressed simply by reducing the number of checks on goods entering the Northern Ireland from Britain. So bear that in mind, because that has been if you take sort of the DUP out of it and ignore what they've been saying for the time being, that is really what been the Conservatives' point and the Brexiteers' point has been saying. Oh, if we just reduce the number of checks, everything will be fine. Not according, again, you now see the split between the hardcore Brexit zealots and the DUP, where those hardcore Brexit zealots love to use the DUP to sort of trash Theresa May's deal and enabled them for years without really understanding the damage that they were doing. But anyway, Donaldson had to say this. He said the checks on the Irish Sea border are a symptom of the underlying problem, namely that Northern Ireland is subject to a different set of laws imposed on us by a foreign entity without the say or vote by an elected representative of the people of Northern Ireland. For the benefit of those watching in London and Brussels, let me restate our clear commitment. So pay attention. If decisive action is taken on the protocol that restores our place fully within the UK, this party will take its place again fully in functioning executive. And these aren't sort of tests, they are more demands. And it is essentially that Northern Ireland be basically completely and utterly ripped out of the customs union and the single market, which would again cause huge problems because, again, you've got to have a border. But as we were about to see, they don't really care. So these are their 7 tests. So 1, to fulfill Article 6 of the Act of Union. 2, to avoid any diversion of trade. To 3, this basically kills it straight away, to not constitute a border in the Irish Sea. But as we've said multiple times, whenever you get to this issue, where's the border going to be? If you're going to be out of the single market customs union, you've got to have a border. So there has to be a border somewhere. This is not going to answer these questions. So even if the DUP somehow magically get their way, this does not solve the Northern Irish problem here. So 4, give the people of Northern Ireland a say in making the laws which govern them. That would be, Stormont, guys, 5, result in, quote, no checks on goods going from Northern Ireland to GB or from GB to Northern Ireland, remaining in Northern Ireland. So this is the sort of 2-check system. But the thing is, as they've said, they will not constitute a border in the Irish Sea. So how then are you, as we've said before, how on earth are they going to like this new deal where there's a 2-lane system? They don't want a border in the Irish Sea, full stop. It doesn't matter that you create a 2-lane system. But this is what you get when you get a party of fanatics hosting up another party of fanatics. Number 6, ensure that no regulatory borders develop between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. And 7, to preserve the letter and spirit of the Northern Ireland constitutional guarantee in the Belfast Agreement by requiring the consent from a majority of its citizens for any diminution of its status as a part of the UK. So essentially, they want another referendum to be taken place in Northern Ireland, I think, in some way. But, and it gets even worse, because as you see here, senior DUP figures have told Politico they would rather see a funeral for the Belfast power sharing than accept the Northern Ireland Protocol. They doubt that the British government will call a new assembly election, but are expected to regain political ground lost to Sinn Féin in May if they do. So there's no way, there is absolutely no way, even if they do win, I can't see them going back into it until they get their way. I really can't. And it goes back to what we've said from the very beginning about all this. The DUP have been a party of fanatics that have been enabled by another party of fanatics, mainly the ERG and the Eurosceptics from the Conservative Party, to get their way. And now the DUP are using the exact same tactics that the ERG used to try and get their way. Turnabout's fair play, maybe. And unfortunately, this is going to cause huge problems, huge political problems. How this all ends, I don't know. Will they be able to retake ground from Sinn Féin? I don't know. I don't know what the polls are. at least obviously how like political opinion has it shifted more against the DUP. I very doubt that they're going to leave sort of second place. So even if there is another election and they say sort of Sinn Féin still do come out on top, there's still going to be that power sharing. The DUP are not just going to refuse to go into it, and they're just ready, as we've said before, time and time again. They are ready to start crisis after crisis until they get their way. And the thing is, giving in to these demands just does not solve the larger question of where do you put that border, and then how do you solve the Northern Ireland issue? Well, you can very simply by just rejoining the single market customs union. But of course, the Brexiteers don't really seem to want to understand that. But of course, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page. And of course, the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And we'll see you all next time.